Hello, friends. I have a very special story to read to you today. This week is Spirit Week for Field Day on Friday. Today is May the 4th be with you. So it is a Star Wars day. Now, I love Star Wars. Colonel's middle name is Chewbacca, but I do not have any Star Wars clothes. So I am just going to be themed today to watch one of the newest Star Wars movies with Mr. Glare. But it kind of goes along with what we're going to be working on this week is space. Now, I love space. If I could go to space, I totally would. I love looking at stars. I love learning things about space. I watch shows about space, all kinds of things. The story that we're going to read today is special because its author is from right here in Nebraska, in Ashland, Nebraska, which is about 25-30 minutes away from us. My nieces and nephews live there. From there is a man named Clayton Anderson, and he is an astronaut. He has gone to space, and he wrote this book. He went and visited my nieces and nephews' school, and he wrote me a little note. So my sister, who is a teacher's assistant there, took this book for me, and he signed it to the Glare family, turn pages into dreams, and his signature. So it's a pretty special book. Now, its title is A is for Astronaut, Blasting Through the Alphabet. So this story might be a little long because the alphabet is kind of long, but it's definitely going to be interesting too. So let's dive in. Oh, let's see who the illustrator is. And the illustrator is Scott Brundage. Now, in this book, there is a bunch of facts to the side and things about when he was in space or his training, different things. I won't read all those right now because it would take a long time to read this book. I'm going to read what the A is for and then the little words there by it. This is a great book if you love space too. You can buy this book and learn all the things on the side. Maybe another time I can post what these are as well. So, A is for astronaut, the bravest of souls. They fly into space and assume many roles. They pilot, they spacewalk, and they even cut hair. But seeing Earth from our orbit, that will cause them to stare. No, Colonel. So he's saying that when you go to space, you're not just an astronaut. You have to do all kinds of things as an astronaut, even cut hair. I know during this time where we are quarantined, they talked to some astronauts who were in space for a long time, and that was kind of like quarantine. They couldn't really go outside. They didn't see their family, and so they had to cut their own hair. They had to cook their own meals. They had to do everything on the spaceship. So these astronauts have a very big job. B is for blast off, a powerful thing. When those engines are fired, it'll make your ears ring. There is smoke and vibration as we launch into space, and we do it with a flair, with an excitement and grace. My mom and dad recently were in Florida, and they saw a rocket take off. They weren't close enough to really hear it. They could kind of hear it and kind of feel some vibrations, but they were able to see it go up into the sky and disappear into the clouds. They said it was very cool. C, the capsule's important, and it starts with a C. It's a tiny compartment much too crowded for me. Our heroes will live there, through all of their flight. They'll eat, sleep, and work in a space that's quite tight. So the capsule in the rocket is where the astronauts stay. They sleep, they eat, they work, everything in that small space. Here, I'll read this one because it's kind of short about capsules. It says, early space capsules were very small and compact. The Mercury program capsule could carry a single astronaut, and Alan Shepard was the first American to launch into space. Later, Project Gemini's capsule took 2 astronauts. For the Apollo moon missions, the capsule was large enough for 3 space flyers, and the space shuttles could carry a crew of 7. Today, NASA hopes to send humans back to the moon and then onto Mars. To do that, they are building a huge rocket called the Space Launch System and a space capsule called the Orion Multi-Purpose Crew Vehicle. Orion, shaped like a big gumdrop, is designed to carry a crew of 2 to 6 astronauts to space. So they are inventing and creating new things so we can go to space more and take more people. And D, for engineers and scientists, knowledge is key. D stands for data, information we need. Be it numbers or symbols, we must send it to Earth, for it's there that trained people will determine its worth. So when they go into space, they take data, different amounts of information, and they send it back to Earth, where scientists study it, learn about it, test it, so that we can learn more about space. For space-faring astronauts, it's orbit or bust. To put us there quickly, we will need massive thrust. It takes many forms, but it's fuel or sun rays. It's E for the energy that will power our stays. So they have to have a lot of energy, whether it's fuel or it's from the sun. They have to have a lot of energy to be working. As we soar into space, we see objects galore, but to land there and visit can be quite a chore. When we don't plan on stopping, we just wave and say hi and zing right on past. That's an F for fly by. So if they're not going to land somewhere or stop to look at something, they just keep going, and it's a flyby. So maybe they're flying past a planet or a big star, and it's a flyby. So they just say hello, look, and keep going. Oh, this is a pretty one. G is for galaxy. Ours is called Milky Way. Not named for the candy, it looks much like paint spray. It is shaped like a spiral filled with billions of stars. For us to explore it, we must travel quite far. So this week, there are a lot of amazing things happening in the night sky. You should look out and see if you see any shooting stars. You might see some different planets out in the sky that we don't always see. I will post about that because I am definitely going to be going to look. I'll read about our galaxy. The Milky Way galaxy is the home of our solar system and possibly many others. Named because it looks like a milky white band stretching far across the night sky. It is home to billions and billions of stars. The Milky Way is shaped like a big spiral disc and is rotating ever so slowly within our universe. Imagine a spinning pinwheel. It is also moving slowly away from the center of the universe, much like the ripples in a pond when a stone is tossed into the water. The Milky Way contains over 100 billion other planets like Earth, some of which may be very similar to our Earth. We call them exoplanets, and maybe one day we'll find one just like ours. That is mind-blowing. Space helmets are crucial. H is their letter. They're protecting our heads, so they must be built better, with cameras and visors to help with our sight, and headlights allow us to work through the night. Their helmets are very, 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 very important. When we zoom around the Earth, there's an angle we need. It's very important, not related to speed. Called inclination, it starts with an I, and it indicates over which part of Earth we will fly. So there is lots of science and math that they figure out. You can see that there's a north. We talked about that with maps, the direction that they are going in. To jettison means we throw something away, like broken equipment or an old solar array. Its letter is J, and it's like tossing out trash, which will hit the Earth's atmosphere and burn up in a flash. So they say that jettison is where they take trash and they release it from their spaceship, and it will start falling to Earth because the gravity is pulling it to the Earth. But once it hits right above the clouds where the atmosphere is, it will burn up. So it will not land in the ocean or on somebody's head or on the ground on Earth. It burns up and is gone. The 35th president, his last name started with K. John F. Kennedy was a man who had so much to say. He challenged our nation to do things that were hard, saying, "We choose to go to the moon, where our astronauts starred." So when we first went to the moon, John F. Kennedy was president. It was a very, very big, exciting thing. My mom remembers when it happened. After a space mission, we return to the Earth. We plan it in detail for all that it's worth. A safe landing is needed, and it starts with an L. When we're back here on Earth, oh, what stories we'll tell. So they don't just jump and hope to land somewhere. They plan it. They need to know exactly where they will land, because that little capsule needs to land in water. And when it lands in the water, they have to have people to know where to go to help get them out of the water. They don't just float there. They want a boat or maybe an airplane even to come and pick them up out of the water so that they can be safe. But they do come down once they shoot through the atmosphere and they're in the clouds. They have these big, can't think of what they're called now, parachutes that help them slow down to land in the water. Rockets flying through space, leaving bright yellow trails, need an M because they're meteors with very long tails. When they get close to our planet with an atmosphere near, they'll all burn up quite quickly and poof, disappear. So that is a meteor. I'm going to read about meteors because they're pretty cool. Meteorites and asteroids are solid objects, think like rocks, moving through space. Asteroids can be very large, but meteoroids are usually much smaller and may be as tiny as a speck of dust. Nearly all meteoroids have some chunks of rock that break off from asteroids or comets located in the asteroid belt that stretches between the planets of Mars and Jupiter. When a meteoroid enters the Earth's atmosphere, so above Earth near the clouds, the intense friction or movement between the atmospheric layers and the rock creates incredible amounts of heat. So when that dust particle, that rock, is coming through the atmosphere, it's moving, it's very, very hot. And the meteoroid begins to burn and glow because fire kind of has a glow, right? It is now called a meteor or shooting star. If a small part of one of these meteors survives through the fiery entry of Earth's atmosphere, it is then called a meteorite. Scientists on Earth become extremely excited when they are able to recover meteorites on Earth's surface. In fact, many scientists journey to Antarctica in the search of these informative pieces of rock. We can learn much about the beginning of our solar system and even our universe by studying the composition of these tiny stones. So sometimes, very rare, those tiny rocks land on Earth and scientists want to study them. But you usually see these in the sky at night. They are on fire, right? And they have a long tail. They're glowing because they're moving, and that is a shooting star. The world loves outer space. It's a grand destination, and NASA's the group representing our nation. The N stands for national, and it gives us such pride when a rocket is launched with our flag on its side. I actually have a friend who works for NASA. It's pretty cool. Breathing in space requires a gas. It's represented by O in a chemistry class. We know it's called oxygen, and it keeps us alive up in space or deep water if we go scuba dive. So they don't just breathe air like we do here on Earth. They have to have oxygen tanks to give them air because there's not oxygen in space and there's not oxygen in water for us to be able to breathe. P is for planning, an absolute must. If NASA can't do it, the mission could bust. To know what you're doing and when it is due is an excellent practice for ground folks and crew. So you can see all that work that they are doing to be able to plan and know exactly what needs to happen so that the astronauts are safe and they can do their job. Q is for Quasar. I don't know if I'm saying that right. An incredible star. Quasars appear faint and red as their distance is far. So that means that these stars are very, very far away, and that's why they kind of look red. They send X-rays and light to all corners of space, but their pull is so strong, not much light will escape. There's so many interesting things in space. Sometimes they're hard words to say. R is for rendezvous, meaning in space we will meet. To bring two ships together can be quite the feat. Using thrust from our engines, smart computers, and plans, if we do it correctly, crews can finally shake hands. So a rendezvous is where they would meet maybe a station up in space or another crew. They have to slowly bring those big spaceships, those machines together, and then they're able to see other people. A rendezvous. Working outside in space is sure to impress. We call it a spacewalk, and its letter is S. Floating weightless with tools and a bulky white suit, we can fix and install things. It's really a hoot. So they said they're floating. There's no gravity. They aren't able to walk on anything by themselves. If they were to let go, they would start floating away because there is no gravity in space. So they have to make sure they're holding on. They have cords that hold them to the ship. But they do these spacewalks so that they can go out on the outside of the ship to maybe fix something or work on something, add something, so that they can continue to do their jobs. To reach space destinations, one thing is a must. It frees us from gravity, and we call it thrust. Starting with T, it's the force we will need as a fiery rocket gives our ship plenty of speed. So to be able to leave the gravity of Earth, the pull that is bringing us to be able to walk and not float away, they have to have those rockets have thrust, where they use the fire and the energy to burst them up so fast that they can leave gravity, because gravity is pulling. They have to have a lot of thrust to kind of stop that gravity to get into space. Thrust. These are all really cool science terms that you will continue to learn about as you get into other grades. U is for universe, the place we explore. Using spaceships and rockets, we are searching for more. New planets, new worlds, maybe being like us. If we are to find them, then continue we must. So we don't know if there's aliens or other people or other planets that we could live on. We don't know yet. That's why they are planning and working to be able to go to space more. But some of those planets are very, very far away, and they take a long time to get there. Long years to get there. V is for Voyager, 2 NASA space probes. They are still sending data, having long left our globe. They have passed all our planets and deep space they have flown, and discoveries continue how knowledge has grown. So these Voyagers, which are space probes, they're little machines, and they are in space. They travel along, they take pictures, they take data, information, and it all is sent back to NASA, back to Earth, for them to be able to study. Since there's not a person on it, it can go those long distances, because if it takes 3 years to get somewhere for a robot, isn't as big of a deal as it is for a human, right? That's a long time for us. A robot type thing can go and go and go and keep sending the data. As we climb high into space, wind is always a force. Beginning with W, it may blow us off course. The rocket's computers will just move us a bit, so our target is always the place we will hit. So they have a target, a place exactly where they are trying to go. And the wind can mess them up. So when the wind picks up, the machines have to kind of make an adjustment so that they can be sure to still land on that target. So it's showing a storm. So if there's maybe a lot of rain or storm or wind, they might not take off at the time that they were planning, because it wouldn't be safe. They wouldn't be able to hit their target. X-rays are invisible. We can't see them on Earth. Their letter is X, and they have serious worth. Harnessed correctly, they let doctors see deep inside our bodies where problems may be. In spaceships, the color yellow with a Y is well known. It means there's a caution with an alarm and a tone. But the crew won't be upset, nor scared, nor afraid. It's not usually a crisis, and the ground will give aid. So when they get a yellow light, they know, oh, something is maybe not working. Something might be wrong. It's not an emergency, but it's a sign to, oh, we better start working and figuring out what's wrong so we can fix it. And I would assume that the red light is an emergency. So yellow means stop, look at what's going on, and figure it out so that we can fix it. Z is for Zulu, which represents time. It's our reference to England when London's clocks chime. As we fly around the earth, folks must know our day's plan, so we all set our watches to match that time span. So they're trying to be able to know what's happening on Earth at different times when they are in space. And we know Z is the last letter of the alphabet. If you are wanting to know some more information about one of those things, just let me know and I will send you a reading or maybe a picture of the information on the side of the page for you to be able to learn more. I feel like I had something else to say, but I don't remember now. There is a link on the details pages that I have sent your mom and dad that allow you to go to a website where real astronauts read you a book in space. It's pretty cool. They are floating around because remember, they don't have gravity, and they read a book. So if you are interested in that, check it out. It's super cool. I like to watch it too. Wonderful book by a Nebraska astronaut. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope your mind is just thinking and dreaming about all the amazing things that space and our Earth has to offer.